Hi.
Hi, Mike.
Starting the meeting.
We'd like to welcome you to our August 4th, 2022 City Council meeting. Thanks for being here. Our opening will be provided by Councilmember Nate Jackson, who will then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. And first off, I just want to say I've been reflecting on my time here on the council since January. And I just have to say, I couldn't be more proud of our mayor, my fellow council members, Shane and Nick, our attorney and manager, and all the employees here at Kaysville. It's like one big family, and everyone has a lot of heart in all the work that they do. And it's a pleasure to serve the community in this regard. And I just want to give a shout out to all the great people that work for the city. With that, I will, should I say a prayer first? Or?
Sure, if you'd like to.
I'm going to start with a prayer here. Our Father in heaven, we are grateful that we can meet before the public, for those who we serve, and to do our best to govern our city the right way. And we are grateful for the opportunity and grateful to live in such a beautiful community. We pray for our troops, and we pray for all of those who work every day to build up our communities and to build each other up. And we pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne Marie. We don't have anyone signed up to speak to call to the public, so we will move forward and talk about declarations of conflicts of interest. Does anyone have a conflict of interest to declare? No? Okay, sounds good. All right, we're on item number 4, consent items. Approval of the minutes of July 21st, 2022.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
That we approve the consent item.
Thank you, Councilmember Oakes.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councilmember Blackham. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry. I guess we can't do that unanimously, can we? Okay. Councilmember Jackson.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay.
Did you want it to go this
I
way?
was going to go this way, but that's okay. I was just going to shake it up a little bit. It's okay. I usually go that way. I should have warned you. Sorry about that. Okay, let's move on to action item A. Preliminary plat subdivision approval for Hinckley lot split located at approximately 815 North Brookshire Drive. I'll turn the time over to Melinda.
Thank you, Mayor. We have received a preliminary plat subdivision application. As you said, it's for 815 North Brookshire Drive. The zone is R18. The lot size is 0.63 acres or 27,442 square feet. It's currently used as a single-family dwelling, and they are going to split the lot into 2 lots. One lot will be just under 12,000 square feet, and the other one will be just over 15,000 square feet. Here's an aerial photo that just shows the location of the property. And then this is a screenshot of the lot that they're splitting, showing the 2 different lots that they're creating. There is an existing home and a gazebo on the lot number 101, but we've confirmed with staff that the property line will be such that it will meet setbacks with that gazebo. And the new lot would not have any existing dwellings on that. This was seen before the Planning Commission at the July 14th meeting. They voted 6-0 to recommend approval to the City Council for the subdivision. They had the following conditions. that the addresses would be added to the lots. The plat title needed to be corrected. The boundary description had a correction that was needed in it, and then they added in a correction or addition of any other items that staff would deem necessary. So we are recommending the City Council approve that with the same conditions. They've already made corrections of all of those and have actually submitted their final plat application, which we will process should the council approve this evening.
Thank you very much. Okay, we don't have anyone signed up to speak to this action item, so I'll open it up for questions. Do we have the applicant here? Yeah. Clint, would you like to, Clint? Yeah. Okay, will you please state your name in the microphone? Okay, thank you. Well, when you get to the mic, thanks. So,
Clint Taylor.
Okay, thank you. Council members, do we have any questions on this?
It's pretty straightforward.
No? Okay, well, never mind then. Thank you for being here.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, seeing that we have no...
Yes. I'm just kidding.
John just likes to be fun. Okay, thank you, Council. Seeing that there's no questions, does someone want to make a motion?
Since I was the jerk, I'll make the motion. I'll make a motion that we approve the preliminary plat subdivision for Hinckley lot split located at approximately 815 North Brookshire Drive.
And I second that.
Thank you, Councilmember Jackson and Councilmember Adams. Does anyone have any comments? No? Okay, Perry, we will start over here. So, Mike, you're up for vote.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to number B, item B, rezone of 1.66 acres of property at 602 South Angel Street from A1 to R114, single-family residential, with a PRUD overlay. I'll turn the time over to Melinda for this.
Thank you, Mayor. This may seem a little bit familiar to the City Council, as we had a rezone application on this property a couple months back. That rezone did not pass. Based on the feedback from the public, the Planning Commission, and the Council, the applicants come back with this application to a lower density. The lot size is 1.66 acres. Right now, there is one single-family dwelling on the property. Given the lot size and the zoning at A1, only one single-family dwelling is allowed. The requested zoning to go to R114 with the PRUD overlay would allow up to 5 single-family dwellings to fit on that property at 72,000 square feet. This is a screenshot of the property, just shows there on Angel Street at 602 South. For a little bit more context, here's a wider scope of the neighborhood aerial shot. This is the view looking at the front of the home, looking west from Angel Street. And this just shows some of the zoning that exists in the neighborhood. There's A1, A5, R120, we have R1LD. So there is several different zones in the surrounding area. The difference between A1, R114, this is often a question that public or council planning commission has, is, you know, what's the difference between the two zones? The A1 has a requirement of that 40,000 square feet for a lot size. R114 is a minimum of 14,000 square feet. So again, based on the lot size, the density would go from 1 to 5 single-family dwelling units. The minimum lot width between the two zones is reduced by 10 feet to 90 feet at the R114. The front setback is the same. The side setback on A1 is 10 feet. On R114, it's at 8 feet. The rear setback is less at R114 at 15 feet, and then the maximum building height is 30 feet for both zones. The applicant did submit a concept rendering with the application and have shown that they would do 4 units or 4 lots, even though the density entitlement just on the square footage would allow up to 5. When considering a zone change, I think you primarily want to look at your general plan, and so we've gone over this in the past, but the currently adopted general plan is a 2019 plan, and there's a few key elements from that plan that are germane to this application. I'll go over those real quickly, but one of the main ones is that Kaysville wants to remain a primarily residential community. So we're not losing any ground as far as this goal, because this would be going from residential to another residential zone. Growth and development, there's a section in there that talks about trying to be diversified and adaptable to changing conditions. R114 would allow for single-family lots on a slightly smaller lot size than what is traditionally out there in the area. And so thinking about having a little bit more diversity and adaptable to the changing conditions of the housing market and some of the challenges with costs, I think that meets that goal. Another section talks about how west of the I-15, you would start looking at some of the higher density or medium density along major arterial streets. Angel Street is considered an arterial street, so I think it's appropriate to look at a higher density than A1 on the properties along Angel Street. It also talks about seeking to provide a variety of housing choices, and again, having an opportunity to have a slightly smaller lot would provide a little bit of diversity with that. We also have in the 2019 general plan an element for moderate income housing that the state has required cities to add in. Some of the tactics that we identified to meet those requirements is that we would look to zoning properties essentially into residential properties, but included in that would be the RM zone, the single family R1 zone, which again, this is R114, just provides 4 additional units than what exists right now with the A1. The other 2 items here, permitting less costly design materials and construction of housing, is relatable to the requested PRUD overlay. And what that allows essentially is the road that would go through the subdivision would be privately owned, and therefore they can create a street that's not to city standards. That gives a little bit more flexibility with costs, passing those costs along to the homeowners. And then the last one is, rezoning for densities necessary to assure the production of moderate income housing. So anytime you can reduce the size of the land and the costs of the associated land, that does bring the cost of housing down. We did hold a public hearing with the Planning Commission. We sent out 31 notices. We do notice within a 500-foot radius of the subject property. And so the public hearing was held on July 14th. With the last round of the R18 zoning, we received, I think, about 25 different emails. This application with R114, we received 4 emails. We did have 1 citizen that came to the meeting and supported the application. The emails that we received, it was kind of your general comments you would expect about concerns about, still having increased density in the area and perhaps changing the character of the neighborhood. The Planning Commission did vote 6-0 to recommend approval to the City Council, and the motion included the following points as findings for supporting the rezone. They felt like it provided a slightly different and greater variety of housing choice with lot sizes uncharacteristic to the west side of Kaysville. They felt like the rezone would not do harm to the general public in terms of infrastructure. They felt that it did comply with the 2019 plan and that it would partly address the housing crisis. So with that, I'll turn the time back over to the council for discussion and questions, and the applicant is here this evening if there's any questions for them.
Thank you so much, Melinda. I really appreciate the detail that you've added, that you continually add in our staff report. It really helps. Okay, council, would you like to hear from the applicant before we invite them up?
I have a question.
Yes.
See, the slide where it talked about 15% of moderate income housing, that's a requirement from the state.
So the state, first of all, since we added in the moderate income housing element back in 2019, the state code has changed again a couple times. So I'm not entirely sure what it was back then, but the state requires that each city have a moderate income housing plan. In fact, I've got a summary here of the requirements that were just passed in this last legislative session, and I want to make sure as we go through this process with our general plan in the next couple of weeks that what we have in there will meet these requirements. So, so that was what Kaysville decided to put in 2019 and felt like it would have met the code at that time.
Oh, okay. And just for clarification, the R1 that falls in line with that, it's any of the R1, so this R114 does fall in line?
I think what this section 1 is saying is that if we were to zone any properties in Kaysville to residential, which would be your residential town site, your R1, your single family, R2, R4, and multiple family, and central commercial, which allows housing with mixed use. I think the intent of that is to just say, look, as long as we're rezoning properties in Kaysville to anything that allows residential uses, then we are adding more housing, which then in theory is meeting that additional moderate income housing goal.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you. Council, would we like to hear from the applicant, or are you comfortable?
Just one,
Go ahead,
one
Councilor
question I
Rhodes.
had, and I guess if the applicant could come up, because you'll probably answer it,
Thank you.
and I want to do it into the, you want to answer into the mic?
Yes, and please state your name when you get to the mic.
David Nielsen.
All right. Hey, David, thanks for being here. So the home that's currently on the property, is that going to be torn down, or will that remain and there'll be four additional?
It will be torn down. It would be too costly to try and renovate what's sagging, let's put it that way.
Okay, okay. And so then a question, since it's zoned where you could put 5 up, what makes you decide not to do 5?
The issue is the lot size requirements, the lot width and the setbacks. Even though we have 72,000 feet and we would meet the R5, you can't, well, I'm pretty good at Tetris and I still haven't figured it out yet.
Okay,
So, I mean, it could change to 5, but I haven't been able to make the pieces work yet.
okay,
Because you've got a minimum lot width at 90 feet, 30 feet back from the front of the property. And based on the current size of the lot, I can't make a pie work. I can't do that without
with the way
with the current width. Now, if it were more wide and less deep, I could do that. You know, if the entrance to the property were on the side, I could make that work potentially. But just given the current shape that it is and the requirements of that, it just does not fit.
Okay.
I wish it did.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
That was my question.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions? Oh,
Yes,
and
Mayor.
Councilmember Hunt.
And I think I remember you saying this at the Planning Commission meeting, but what did you say were the estimated sale value of these?
These would be $1 million plus.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, easily. Crazy. It's awesome. I mean, they're half-acre, 2 back lots, half-acre lots are the same size as every other lot in the area. And the 2 third-acre lots will be a little less, but not much.
What was the cost, the sell price before with the 8 homes?
We were targeting between $600 to $850
Yeah.
down here, which is about, I mean, I've got 7 houses for sale from $750 to $950 in Willard on quarter-acre lots.
Yeah.
which would be killer for Davis County, but apparently nobody wanted it. Okay?
I was just curious about square footage on these homes. Approximate.
These are going to be built to suit, we're a custom home builder.
Okay.
I'm imagining that, not unlike the other subdivisions, they will take every inch of available setback space.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks. Anyone else with questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We don't have anyone signed up to speak, so council, do you have any other questions? No? Okay. Ready for a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Can we do the PRUD separate?
I don't know,
Yeah.
then why don't you
we
make
really
it?
need to- Well, you do the rezone, and then we need to do the PRUD separate.
Okay. So I make a motion that we approve the rezone of 1.66 acres of property at 602 South Angel Street from A1 light agriculture to R114 single-family residential district.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Adams, we'll start with you. Oh, well, do we have any comments?
I have a
Okay.
comment.
Yes.
I'm just happy to see this family back to repetition, and loved the homes before, the patio homes. Wish we could do that, but happy to see you back and happy to see you marching forward with this. So.
I was late. Can I say something? I didn't get a sign up.
You didn't get to sign up,
I didn't get a sign up because I came in late.
right?
Were the papers even out there?
Yeah, they were out there.
They were.
Well, they were at the beginning of the meeting. The rule, yeah. it was-
I get it.
Okay.
I'm not going to go crazy about it. If I'm too late, I get it.
Okay, okay, thank you. All right, any other comments? No? Okay. Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion passes, thank you.
I'll make a motion that we do a PRUD overlay zone on this, not to exceed the 4 lots as shown on the drawing.
Do we have a second
I might need some
or a substitution motion?
explanation or understanding what's
Want
going
to
on.
elaborate?
Well,
While you're limiting
I
it
don't
to
like, I
4?
mean, this is what's shown on the agenda, this is what people see, this is what they think they're getting. The PRUD allows them to do the private lane subdivision, and they see 4 lots. That's why I think if we're going to do a PRUD overlay, that's usually very specific to the subdivision. And so that's what we're looking at here is 4 lots proposed on here. That's usually what a PRUD gives you the ability to do a private lane with the setbacks and the lot sizes that we see here. That's what an overlay zone is over something that's normally an R114 zone is something that is specifically 14,000 square feet on a city street, has certain setbacks, certain widths. But when you do a PRD overlay, you make some consent, you make some changes or consent to some different things. And the drawing that they've showed is a private lane with 4 lots. And so my motion is to accept the PRUD overlay zone for this property, not to exceed the 4 lots as shown on the drawing.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
And this goes to either you, Councilmember Blackham, or Melinda. Oh,
Mayor, I apologize. Typically, we need a second on the motion.
Oh, okay,
before
sorry
we
about
take
that.
questions.
Right, okay. Do we have a second on the motion?
I'd like to hear more about it.
Okay, so motion fails, and then he can,
Correct. Then
He
we
can-
can have
he can have a new
questions,
motion if you'd
and
like.
Councilmember Blackham could make the same motion
Okay.
after the question.
okay, all right.
okay.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
my question is, so the plan as we speak shows 4 homes, and you've been trying to figure out how to put a 5th home on there. Would this motion, if that passed, would that prohibit you from putting a 5th home on there if you can make it work, if it still fits within
And you know
the
what,
zone?
Nate? I'm not necessarily against the 5 homes, but that's what I want to see here if we're going to do a PRUD overlay.
Okay, now I'm understanding a little bit what, oh, sorry,
Let-
you go ahead.
let's- So are you wanting the applicant to come and speak to answer that question? Would you
Well,
like that,
I
or
was
do you want
asking
Melinda to
just
make-
Melinda, or just some clarification
Okay.
on that. Would this restrict the family from having to stick to 4, even though this new zone would allow up to 5, but they just haven't been able to figure it out yet.
Nick, will you help us with that?
Sure. So I'm going to back up a little bit and just give some context. So the way that this is on the agenda, Councilmember Blackham has separated this out, and that's traditionally how we've done it in Kaysville, is we've done the underlying zone, and then we've had a second motion to apply the PRUD. So there's nothing that's changing different from what Ms. Greenwood presented. This would just allow them those slight alterations to allow the PRUD. If they were able to figure out some way to do 5 lots, they could do that, but that would be the same, that's the same as it was presented at the beginning. So it doesn't change anything. This is not changing anything about what's been presented. All this is doing is making it very clear, as we've traditionally done here in Kaysville, that the underlying zone has passed and that also the PRUD overlay zone has passed as well. That's all this is. It's a technical motion that I believe, if I understand right, Councilmember Blackham's made a technical motion because of the way that we've traditionally done it here.
So my question then is, if the applicant decided, okay, we can put 5 houses on here, would they have to come back in with a new application for that PRUD overlay to allow 5? Since the wording is going to be specific to 4 if that passes?
I don't believe
It is a
so.
rezone.
So-
Nick, it is a rezone. A PRUD overlay zone is a rezone. So
Correct.
you are held to whatever is there. That's my understanding under state statute.
I guess I'm confused on what you say by what is there.
What you dictate on your PRUD overlay, that's when you put in your special requirements. It's part of the zone that you're doing when you're doing the PRUD overlay zone. Otherwise, it'd just be a plat approval process. This is not a staff thing, this is a legislative thing. And so this is when you put in, and this is what's presented, so this is what, if we're gonna give the PRUD overlay, because the PRUD overlaying is discretionary, we don't have to do that, but we can do that if there are certain circumstances that we feel make it a better subdivision.
Okay, thank you. I understand your question now.
Yeah.
If you're going to limit it to 4, if the applicant is willing to agree to that on the record here, then that's fine. Otherwise, whatever they could do with the PRUD zone, you couldn't dictate that unilaterally. They would either have to agree to it, or it's allowed in the zone as part of the PRUD.
So what you're saying is, if we grant a PRUD overlay, we cannot limit it to 4 houses in this situation. We just grant that PRUD overlay approval, and then they can put 4 or 5, whatever they can fit. They wouldn't have to come back to amend that. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay, and you're saying that that is not correct?
That is not correct, because this is a rezone with
Then
legislative.
you would need to have a development agreement to limit the density entitlement.
That's what I was trying to find out, the difference between PRUD overlay and development agreement. Like development agreement, I could see where we could have to enter into agreement with them to state that they.
Maybe this is a question for Nick, but if Councilmember Blackham makes it contingent upon, if we allow the PRUD overlay contingent upon up to 4, they come in with 5, I'm wondering, Nick, if that would automatically then make the PRUD overlay invalid. Does that make sense?
That's the question. Would they
Yeah,
have to
I
come
think
back?
you could do it that way. Absolutely.
So we could do it as.
Councilmember Blackham, is that you were thinking, that it's contingent
Councilman-
upon it, and so if there's more than 5, then it's not,
It's an invalid.
then that goes back to
Right.
not being valid.
So they would have to come back and reapply for that
And-
additional
Yeah, or the
change.
And the reason for the PRUD overlay, I mean, because if it was just the density that we were changing it to, they could put up to 5 homes on it. Why are we doing the PRUD? Is it just for the private street?
Yeah, so essentially, the PRUD overlay doesn't allow.
I understand what
variation
yeah, it
from
allows
any
you to
of the
kind of divvy it
underlying
up.
Zoning.
Right.
Like you still have to meet the setbacks and minimum lot requirements. It doesn't increase or decrease density. It allows you essentially to just vary from the city standards and create private roads, private infrastructure.
Some smaller, some bigger,
Yeah,
yeah, as
so-
long as it all equals up to the total square footage.
I would like to invite a representative to come up, the applicant representative. Okay, are you following this? Okay, I know you're a developer, so you understand, but, okay. How do you feel about this as the applicant?
I'm not in favor of it.
Okay.
I understood that the zoning passed, and then that zoning should allow us to do what we've asked you to do.
Well, can I just talk?
Sure, go ahead.
The zoning would allow you to have an
Up to 5
R114 subdivision on a city street, okay? It takes the PRUD overlay in order to get the private street, the smaller lots, the setbacks, the street different designs. That's what the PRUD overlay does. It allows you to vary from what an R114 in the standard subdivision calls for.
Understood?
Okay, and that's why.
So my question is the motion that was passed was only for the zoning, not the
Yeah,
entire
for
thing?
the zoning.
Correct.
That was done very carefully, wasn't it?
Well, usually that's always done separately.
I mean, after everything we've been through, I would ask you to do to vote on what we asked. I mean,
Well, okay, so you're asking us to vote, just for clarification, not to argue with you, but you did present for
I
house
did present
subdivision.
4, but the zoning says 5.
Okay,
We couldn't make 4 fit, or we couldn't make 5 fit, so we proposed 4, but, maybe somebody smarter than me can do it. So I always like to have options.
okay, absolutely,
As
I
anybody in
understand.
my position would.
Okay,
That would be my request, and,
okay. So what the council could do is we could either, someone could make a motion to approve it as presented, or we could have a motion to approve it with 4. So that would be the
Well,
council's
and-
decision.
And I would say that if you approve it as presented without the PRU overlay, it will kill the project.
Well, I mean, no, I'm talking about the PRUD
I
overlay,
understand,
just
but
just
if you-
generally
If you
speaking.
approve the zoning without the overlay, the project is dead,
Okay,
because it will not meet the standards.
right,
Because you don't
right.
have the frontage
Right,
requirement.
I'm just,
Correct.
I'm,
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
That's why I understand about the PRUD overlay. That's why, because it differs from the normal standards.
Right, and I would say that there are very many of those neighborhoods that are around there that have that PRUD overlay, and they've been approved very frequently along Angel Street.
So, may I ask a question?
yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, if because we approve the zoning would allow up to 5. You haven't figured out how to do it.
Right.
But we approve the zoning that would allow it. So if we do the overlay, which I guess it needs to be able to proceed, and they figure out a way to get a 5th home on there, we're saying they would have to come back.
Not necessarily. If we just
Oh,
approve it.
But that's what, isn't that
Well,
what?
that was his motion, to limit it to 4. The motion itself isn't to limit it to 4. I mean,
Okay.
as it is, that was my substitute motion.
Okay,
I'm trying to make my motion mirror what they've presented.
okay.
Mayor,
Absolutely, yes,
may I make a motion?
yes, thank you.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the rezone of 1.66 acre, not approve the rezone, sorry.
We already did.
The PRUD overlay as presented without any restrictions on number other than the restrictions stated in the rezone, which would allow them to have 5 if they can figure out a way to do it.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes, that's great, thank you.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
And I second that.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have comments?
Yeah, I have a comment. When you first presented to us, the zone that you were requesting allowed up to 9, but you were going to do 8, and you presented the architectural design of the homes. Patio homes, we need more patio homes, because most of the people in that neighborhood, once they turn 75 and 80, they're going to have to leave all their friends and move out of the city probably, unless we have more homes that can accommodate. And so this council said, most of the people said 5, even be happy with 6. And so to whittle it down and tie your hands to 4, I just think that kind of does a disservice, because I would love to see patio homes. So if there's a way you can make the home slightly smaller or more patio home-ish, that would be fantastic. But I wholeheartedly support Councilmember Hunt's motion.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you very much. Oh,
Sorry, John.
No, you're good, go, nope.
I also just wanted to say that the part of the reason why I just made the motion is that in speaking with planners from other cities that I've spoken with, it's pretty standard. You don't have to have a fully done concept when you present for a rezone. I just don't see, I mean, yeah, that's what you showed us, but I don't think that it's a requirement that it be exactly like that. I mean, that would, I think, get to the point where we would have to, if you have to change the lots at all, you need to come back, and I don't think that makes sense to have people come back over and over and over again. Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Councilmember Adams.
Yeah, I will say that I can see both sides to this coin. You know, when people look at, for example, when they get on and they look at what the minutes of the meeting are going to be, or they look at the book and they go through, you know, pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? And so when they see a picture of the 4 homes, they think, oh yeah, I like that. There's only one backyard facing my backyard, or whatever it might be, right? And so I can see where Councilmember Blackham has some foresight to say, like, gosh, you know, people might be surprised if they see this differently. I also see your point that that allows for it. I mean, I guess I'm looking back and, like, to do a PRUD, you don't necessarily have to have a drawing, right? Like, you do have to.
You always have had to in the past. Every subdivision we've ever done a PRUD overlay on had a drawing.
A drawing. And so that's, I mean, you know, that's where I guess, like, if you'd had a drawing with 5, I bet you that.
And as I said, if there was a drawing here with 5, I had no problem with it.
Because I spoke with him, you know, I got in trouble with my mom for not approving the last one. Mr. What's your uncle's name?
Dave Johnson.
Yeah, Dick. Yeah, but I thought it was so great of him to come up and talk to me and everything. He didn't come up and punch me in the face, and so I spoke with Councilmember Blackham. I was like, you know, 5 would be fine. I think the issue here is the picture. I don't know if we necessarily need to table it and allow for people to see a picture of 5, but
Here's a question for Melinda or Nick.
It's just going to cost them more money.
Okay, just a second. I have a question for you. So if, for example, they decided, okay, we will come back with a drawing with 5, do they have to wait a year if say the motion on the table is for 4 and they say, no, we don't want 4, we want 5. Would they have to wait a certain amount of time before coming back with a new plan to do 5 houses? How does that work?
No, you approved the rezone to R114.
Right, we've got the rezone.
So we do limit, if a rezone fails, they would have to wait a year to
Right.
reapply for the same
Okay,
rezone.
but a PRUD doesn't apply to.
In this case, they're just asking, or the next part of the application is whether or not you apply the PRUD overlay. So if the council wanted to see if 5 could fit, right, any motion is possible, including bringing it back at a future date. Traditionally, what happens, and I think what Mr. Johnson was trying to relay, is that especially based on what happened last time with the rezone being denied, you don't want to spend a whole lot of money to see what you can do until you know the zoning's in place. And so I think he said, look, I played around enough with this to know that 4 fit, we can make that do it. But if the rezone gets applied with the PRUD overlay, they'll take this to a civil engineer and they'll see if there's any possible way to make 5 fit. If they can, I think they would like to do that. Otherwise, they know that 4 can. And so they've spent just enough money to figure out that 4 works, but not enough money and effort to engineer to see if 5 would work.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
There's one additional issue that I don't know the extent of, and I won't know the extent of until August 15th, and that is the FEMA overlay for flood zone and how that will affect our ability to build on the lots.
Okay.
And it does not make any sense for me to say, I can do 4 big lots, or I can do 5 little lots, and, you know, if I place them just right, I can get around where FEMA drew their maps, because they're kind of silly when they draw their flood maps sometimes. It's options for me.
Okay, I appreciate that. Council, I'll just make a comment. Obviously, I don't have a vote, but I will say that I think in this situation especially, where, you know, you initially came with a plan, the neighbors didn't like it, you went back to the drawing board, you want to be good neighbors, you changed your plan pretty drastically, and now you're coming back with what I believe is very reasonable. So instead of looking at it from the perspective of what are they going to try to do, I think you've been very honest, very transparent in saying, look, this is what we can put on a paper right now, knowing that there might be potential to be more creative. I don't know. But I think that you've been incredibly honest. You've done your due diligence. You've done everything you can to work with the neighbors. That's why no one's here to speak to this. Not because it was a 4 on a picture. It was still up to 5, and I think that they heard that at Planning Commission as well. And so I guess I would just make a plug for, I think it's a very fair thing to be able to do a PRUD overlay and not limit it. I don't get a vote, but that's just my 2 cents. Does anyone else have any comments? Councilmember, no? Oaks?
No, I hope they can find a way to get a 5th helm on there, you know, personally. And I understand the limitations of what you want to spend and go into it. So I don't see a problem.
Okay.
Personally.
Okay.
I would, yeah.
Okay, so thank you. So are we ready to vote? Okay, I'll start with Councilmember, who are we on? Hunt.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. All right, appreciate it, guys. Let's move on to action item letter C, a resolution amending section 3.16 of the Kaysville City Personnel Rules and Regulations regarding holidays. Shane, I'll turn the time over to you.
Okay, Mayor, thank you. As you know, we've discussed this a couple of times. The latest proposal tonight before you is to follow the state holidays and recognize them, plus adding the day after Thanksgiving. Under this scenario, we would close the office on all of the holidays. So that would have the benefit of not having anybody choose, but it would be one more holiday that the office would be closed. We thought it was important not to distinguish this holiday from any others. We wanted to just make it a holiday. If we're going to make it a holiday, just make it the same as every other holiday. Like I said, we would close the office. That's not going to cost the city any more financially. You could argue we're going to be less productive that week, or that we're going to have to squish 4 days of productivity into 5. But it doesn't cost any actual outcropping of any funds. And we think there's some benefits to doing this. I think that there's a precedent set by the state of Utah and the federal government and what the holidays are, and I think following that is a good precedent to follow, and not making, like I said, a distinction just on one holiday, no matter what it is. So other cities have done this. We thought this was a good way to go. Wanted to throw this to the council for discussion, and obviously we're here to answer any questions about this. But
I have a question for Shane. My question for you, Shane, is I went back and looked at the minutes of the meeting when we talked about this before, and I got the impression it was the majority of the council that we did not want to add an additional holiday. I think there was a few members up here that actually said that, including myself, and it was my understanding it was the direction of the council to have you go back to the employees and do a survey, and then you were going to send us the results of that survey in an email.
I don't remember that level of detail.
I believe that's exactly what we said
Okay.
in the meeting. That's
Okay.
exactly what we said.
Well, I'm happy to do that with the staff. What I did do was poll the department heads and ask them to get a consensus
I understand.
from their
I understand
departments.
talking to the department heads when we're talking about work, but when we're talking about benefits, I think it's important that we poll the employees, because that's who it affects.
I think all the employees would be in favor of this, though.
They're all in favor
that's
of
really
it,
what I'm-
but what I was getting at was,
Yeah.
was the council's discretion that we did not want to add an additional holiday, so there was some discretion on which holiday would they choose to eliminate.
Yeah.
And so you were going to go back to the staff, you were going to do some sort of a survey or whatever, and then you were going to give us those results.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't do it, is because I felt that between that last meeting and today, we had council consensus for this rather than, and as Councilmember Adams just said, we don't have staff members that are against adding a holiday, one more holiday. So if that is wrong about the council disagreeing with that
And I
direction.
understand the employees would not argue about getting an additional holiday. It was just the council was against adding the holiday. The direction to you was to go to staff and come back with which holiday.
Can I add something?
Sure, I will just make one technical notation. We don't have anyone signed up to speak to this. So we're recognizing that we don't have anyone signed up.
And there should be questions.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay, a question.
Yes.
Because I read through the minutes as well, and I didn't see I think we discussed the action item of you going back and getting some feedback, but I don't recall an exact decision that was made with the entire council that we disagreed with it or that we needed those numbers to make a decision. Personally, I was just trying to take every argument and weigh it appropriately at the time. But I'm firm on my position at this point in time.
Thank you. Anyone else with questions?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Councilmember Oaks.
So we're in all actuality, we're adding 2 holidays, right? What is the Friday after Thanksgiving? What's currently done?
It's already there. So the only difference is we're not adding 2, just adding 1. We already have the Friday after Thanksgiving, but the idea would be to follow the state holidays, and the state of Utah holidays do not have the Friday after Thanksgiving. So obviously that's in your discretion too.
So we would differ from the state then?
In that one holiday, we would. That's right. So yeah, and of course, again, all this discretion is yours. If you want to take that out or not do it, or do it, you know, what Councilmember Blackham is suggesting, and switch a holiday or do nothing is also on the table. Like Councilmember Adams said, you're right. All the staff are fine adding a holiday, and that's fine. And if you feel like the state of Utah following their holidays is a slippery slope, we did discuss this as department heads. I think we decided the last holiday that was added to the state of Utah was Martin Luther King in 1986. We don't feel like this is something that's going to happen every year. I did feel like I received individual direction from the council that this would be, I'm not saying it's a no-brainer or it's an easy thing to do, but this is the direction I felt like I had after discussing this with individuals and the mayor too.
So, I agree with the way it's written, and when you write it this way and take off Friday after Thanksgiving, we should not be contrary to the state. I personally do not feel we need to add an additional holiday. I got it. The money's the same, but it's not, because the productivity goes down. I've seen that over my career when we went from working Monday through Friday to a 980 schedule and then a 410 schedule. I mean, I'm on a 980 schedule. Tomorrow's my day off, and I found myself today on a Thursday afternoon around 1 o'clock thinking, wow, my day's about over. And I saw that, I mean, Thursday's now Friday, and I don't like it. I feel we're going the way of a lot of socialism when you keep adding days and productivity goes down, but it's not worth it to go contrary and be held up as Kaysville being so contrary to the state and federal. I do need to say that my entire life, I mean, until 3 years ago, I'd never heard of Juneteenth. And I think 98% of the country would probably say the same. I viewed the ending of slavery, which was a wonderful thing, but there's a thing called the Emancipation Proclamation, and I got it. It was just freeing the slaves in the South. It wasn't freeing them in the North. It was after the Battle of Antietam, the bloodiest battle of the Civil War, I believe. And they reissued it on January 1st, Well, why aren't we doing January 1st? You know, it's already a holiday. I mean, we do President's Day. We're President's Day, which used to be Lincoln and Washington, is combined into one. Personally, I've always thought of July 4th, because when I think of the Civil War as that event that caused the cessation of slavery in our nation, I go back to July 4th because I think of Gettysburg, because Gettysburg was the turning point of the war, and it ended on the 4th of July. And I don't know. What happens when we really want to do Valentine's Day as a federal holiday, or Blue Martians from Neptune? And I don't mean to make light of anything, but there comes a point when enough's enough, and I think we're there, but I won't go against, the state's already made the decision. That's a long comment, and I rambled, but anyways, I thought about this, woken up the last 2 nights thinking about this. It's weighed on me.
Thank you, Councilmember Oaks. Does anyone else have any questions? Councilmember Adams does.
Yes, point of clarification. So how, when a work item is discussed, doesn't necessarily have to become an action item that way?
I'm sorry?
When a work item is discussed a certain way, I guess, how are action items placed on the agenda?
Just by, yeah.
Either the mayor or 2 council members, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think that, like, initially I thought, yeah, this isn't on the action item the same way that, like, we sort of discussed it in the work item.
Well,
that was my initial thought.
Well,
I'm not finished.
Oh, well, this is.
But, and a big but I believe the action item that's here could be placed by the mayor, and I believe that she's placed it there because she's had a chance to discuss it with each and every one of us. And so I don't feel like a betrayal in the way that the action item was placed, only because things happened in between when we had it as a work item and when it was put on as an action item. So I don't feel like it was a sneaky move. What is? Is that a question now still?
I appreciate you clarifying that, and I was going to say, so the reason that it came back looking the way it did was because you made a suggestion that, and you said, Councilmember Adams, that people should not have to choose. And I agree. I thought about it after the meeting. I put a lot of thought into it, as it has everybody. And we've had this discussion a couple of times because it is such a big deal to add a holiday. And so it came back as an HR manual update, just indicating that it's a state holiday. We'll recognize it so that our employees do not have to be in a position that could be awkward and uncomfortable in choosing whether or not they value Juneteenth as well as other holidays. So that was your suggestion, and I appreciate you explaining why it looks like this as an action item.
Yes, and I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we approve the resolution amending section 3.16 of the Kaysville City Personnel Rules and Regulations regarding holidays.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any comments?
I do have comments.
Okay, Councilmember Blackman.
Okay, I want to be very clear on why I'm against this, because it's not fair, because I'm not against the holiday. I don't want to look like I'm against Juneteenth. I'm not against that. But when I sit and talk to people, and I'm in the construction industry somewhat, and I've been around it, and I realize that our employees get, when they are very first hired, they get 10 vacation days, they get 12 sick leave days. Well, that's all been combined now. That's all been combined into just personal leave days. And then you add 12 holidays. That means the day I go to work for Kaysville City, I get 34 paid days off that somebody has to do my work, or I have to make up my work, or whatever. I realize it doesn't cost any more if you make it 35. But I have to picture myself sitting in a room with a bunch of independent business owners and me trying to explain to them how they need to give their employees 34 days off, and they have to do billable time to pay for those employees. to justify giving that many days off. I think there comes a point, and if I'm a tenure employee, I get 44 days off. And now I'm going to get, that would make it 35 and 45 days. 45 days when there's only 20 to 22 working days a month gives a person, I just think there comes a point where you just, and my principles won't allow me to just keep going on and on. I'm not against the holiday, but I'm honestly, what I'm saying is, the first time, and I'm not taking anything away from Columbus Day, but the first time I got it off, I wasn't even sure why. I know schools, I believe, are still in session on Columbus Day, but I'm not against the Juneteenth holiday. It's just, I just can't imagine having 35 billable hour days that somebody doesn't have to come to work. We've already got 34. I'm not trying to take any away, but we have enough. That's where I'm coming from.
Can I make
Councilmember Adams.
just for the sake of wanting Councilmember Blackham to vote aye on this motion, I would propose the future, close your ears employees, but the future examination of how many days then you get when you get hired, as far as like the sick leave and those types of things. If you feel very passionate about the number of days that they're getting when being hired, being brought back down to 34, that the way you go about that is that when we look at, because we can change that, right? I mean, that's something that we can change as a council, and we can look at is we can say like, hey, our employees get 11 sick days instead of 12, right? And so my proposal would be that the sword you die on is not so much the holiday sword, which, like, I did mention it sucks to make people have to choose.
I don't want to.
But the sword that we die on rather, or the way you approach it rather is, are we providing too many days off for our employees? If that's the case, then we don't whittle it down through the holidays. Because for me too, the other thing about having holidays off that makes sense is that everybody else is also off. So a lot of the times people are recreating or doing things, and so you think about like the city offices on a holiday probably get 10% of the people coming in that would have normally come in because everybody's out recreating. It's not like a car dealership where people want to go buy cars on that day. And so my recommendation would be that if we do want to see that cut down, that comes from the level of cutting down the amount of days, and that most employees would recognize, okay, yeah, they took a day away from me, but they added a day through the holiday. That's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councilmember?
Yeah.
Yes, Jackson.
I would just like to say that this is such a historic and monumental holiday, and I mean, I agree with Councilmember Blackham. I think it's where does it end? But I also appreciate your comments, Councilmember Adams, that there are other ways to get what we want. But this absolutely, the decision we make up here will affect every single employee, not just right now, but future employees. And we should absolutely allow the respect that this holiday, what it represents, we should allow the respect for what it deserves. So.
Thank you for your comments, everyone. Councilmember Oaks, did you have something else? No? Okay.
Probably shouldn't.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Okay, let's go to a vote then. Councilmember Jackson.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, council. That was a really great discussion. All right, councilmember reports. Does anyone have anything they'd like to report?
Mayor?
Yes.
May I? Hold on, let me pull it up. I wrote it down. I just want to say that community council, sorry, not community council, the Central Davis Communities That Care had a meeting here this week, and they're getting their kind of working groups up and going. So that's kind of exciting to see, because the first meeting was like, how do we set this up? And now we're getting the gears turning. So it's exciting to see how that works, and hopefully have new ideas for drug prevention in our city. And then just also that Planning Commission's going well. They've got 2 new members now, and they also elected a new chair and vice chair last week. The chair is Toby Barris, and the vice chair is Jared Doxson.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yep.
That's great. Does anyone else have any? Councilmember Blackham.
I just have a little discussion. I don't know, maybe Shane can chime in. I've been a real proponent of trying to get an above or below grade crossing on the bike path at the bottom of 200 North. And I just want this council to know that I'm ready to drop it. I'm done with it. I'm very, very disappointed in UDOT. I think it could have been a very simple change order in the beginning. Originally, it was supposed to be that way, and it got changed, and it's not that way. And I hope they see this, and I hope they see how I feel about this, because I don't know where else to go. I've talked to Senator Adams. I've talked to Speaker Wilson. I've talked to Senator Stevenson. I've done everything I think I could possibly do. And the last thing we got was a thing from Horrocks saying that it would be about $7 million. Well, we know how tight budgets are. I don't feel good about Kaysville City having to bring their own money and spend on something like this, which is a regional trail system that could have easily been included. I was really hard and pushed for it at the beginning, because the time of the essence at that point could have been simple, could have been a good change order. But at this point, I'm ready to drop it. I'm not interested in pursuing, and I'm certainly not interested with all the things that we need money for. Kaysville City having to spend $250,000, which we kind of committed of our money for something like that. I'm very frustrated. I feel like you just can't get anything done. I've gone to everybody I've talked to said that's a good idea. It should be that way, but it's not going to get done unless it's what wasn't last cost estimate $7 million from Horrocks?
Yeah, it was over 5, and I think it didn't include something.
Yeah, so
Can we get a giant sign that says "I told you so"?
I would love to get that, because I don't want to waste the staff's time on it anymore. Staff has a lot of other things to do. Josh has a lot of things to do than to keep spending their time on something that doesn't appear to be going anywhere. And it's gotten to the point now where it can't get done with the project, it looks like, and it's going to do nothing but cost a lot of money.
Mayor, can I add something?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
To Councilmember Blackham's credit, I said, when we were talking about this the other day, and I said, well, let's wait and see what UDOT and them say, and I think it's such a big number. And Councilmember Blackham's like, I don't want them to even, it's so much and so ridiculous, I don't even want them spending their money on this project, because it's so, and it would be like, $250 or whatever we spend, but it's just, it's a really obnoxious number.
It is, and I do want to give you kudos, Mike, because you fought hard for that. And staff fell in and also supported it, so I appreciate everything you tried to do. Doesn't make any sense, it's going to be frustrating, and I'll keep having to bike south so I don't get killed. Anyway, okay, anyone else with a council member report? Okay, Shane, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Just that we have a couple of citywide little events twice a year, and we had another one today. And it was just really well attended, and I've heard good things. I hope if you hear things from staff, you hear good things too. I think we had just a nice time together, and so we try to do that, two different of those things a year. And I just think those things help us feel more like Councilmember Jackson was saying about feeling like a family. I think some of us feel that way, so I think it's nice.
I heard a lot of great comments when I was standing there taking pictures and just chatting with people, just how much they appreciate those types of events and the opportunity to get away. So anyway, okay, that is it. Will someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we close the meeting.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.